Welcome to Wonder Wave. Today we're diving into one of the darkest and most haunting chapters in European history, the witch hunts. For centuries, fear, superstition and persecution gripped Europe, leading to the tragic deaths of thousands of innocent people, mostly women, accused of witchcraft. But how did this hysteria begin? Why were so many lives destroyed? And what legacy do these witch hunts leave behind? The roots of European witch hunts can be traced back to the Middle Ages, but their peak came during the 16th and 17th centuries. Before then, the idea of witches had existed in folklore and religious beliefs, but it wasn't seen as a widespread threat. Early Christian authorities dismissed witchcraft as pagan superstition. However, with the rise of the Catholic Church's power, things began to change. The infamous Malleus Maleficarum, or Hammer of Witches, published in 1487 by two German inquisitors, became a catalyst for the witch hunt frenzy. This book laid out guidelines for identifying, prosecuting and punishing witches, labeling witchcraft as heresy. It became one of the most influential manuals for witch hunters across Europe, and its impact cannot be overstated. The witch hunts were not merely the work of a superstitious population. They were also driven by religious and political authorities. The Catholic Church and Protestant reformers alike sought to purify society of perceived threats. Witchcraft became a convenient scapegoat during times of turmoil, be it war, famine or disease. In many parts of Europe, witch trials were held by both ecclesiastical courts and secular governments. As tensions between Protestants and Catholics rose, both sides used accusations of witchcraft as a way to eliminate enemies and reinforce their religious dominance. It wasn't just religious motives at play. Political leaders saw the witch trials as a way to consolidate power and control populations through fear. The majority of those accused of witchcraft were women, particularly older women, widows and healers. Why women? In patriarchal societies, women were often seen as morally weaker and more susceptible to the devil's temptations. Gender-based stereotypes fueled the belief that women were more likely to engage in witchcraft. Once accused, the so-called witches faced brutal and often deadly trials. Torture was commonly used to extract confessions, even if the accused had done nothing wrong. Ironically, those who confessed under torture were often spared execution, while those who maintained their innocence faced the harshest punishments. Trials involved methods like swimming the witch, where suspects were bound and thrown into water. If they floated, they were deemed guilty. If they sank and drowned, they were considered innocent, but of course dead. One of the most infamous witch hunts took place in Germany, particularly in the regions of Würzburg and Bamberg during the early 17th century. Thousands of people were executed in these hunts, often after being subjected to horrifying torture. The Würzburg trials alone saw the deaths of over 900 people. In Scotland, the North Berwick witch trials in 1590 became notorious for their brutal persecution of accused witches, many of whom were tortured into confessing that they had plotted to sink King James VI's ship. The Salem witch trials in colonial America in 1692 are perhaps the most well-known. But European witch hunts had already claimed far more victims by this time. Still, the trials in Salem remain a stark example of how fear and paranoia could spiral out of control. By the late 17th century, the witch hunts began to die down. Several factors contributed to this. The Enlightenment brought about new ways of thinking, emphasizing reason over superstition. Scientific advancements, along with a growing skepticism about the validity of witch trials, led many to question the legitimacy of the persecutions. Legal reforms also played a part. In 1682, Louis XIV of France prohibited further witchcraft prosecutions, and other European countries began to follow suit. Public opinion shifted, and what was once seen as a necessary evil became a symbol of ignorance and injustice. The witch hunts left a deep scar on European history. It's estimated that between 40,000 to 60,000 people were executed as witches during this period. But the exact number is still debated, and the true extent of the tragedy may never be fully known. Beyond the staggering loss of life, the witch hunts have become a symbol of mass hysteria and the dangers of unchecked power. They also reflect the darker side of human nature. How fear, prejudice, and the need for control can lead to unimaginable cruelty. Today, many people see the witch hunts as a lesson in the importance of reason, justice, and human rights. It's a reminder that society must be vigilant against persecution, especially when driven by fear and ignorance. The dark history of European witch hunts serves as a chilling reminder of the consequences of superstition, fear, and scapegoating. What began as isolated accusations spiraled into widespread persecution, leading to the deaths of thousands of innocent people. As we look back on this period, we must remember the lessons learned and ensure that such horrors are never repeated. Thank you for watching this episode of Wonderwave. If you found this video informative, don't forget to like, share, and subscribe. Stay curious, stay informed, and until next time, keep riding the wave of wonder.